It's Theme Park Thursday Live with Dillos Diz. Featuring Frank. And Jen.
This is Theme Park Thursday with Dillos Diz. She is Jen.
Hello.
And I am Frank. It's not Thursday at all.
No.
It is a Monday night.
Yes.
Here on our YouTube channel.
Yes.
Where this evening we have decided to do something that we do over at DillosDizResort.com. That is our Patreon with memberships beginning as low as $1 per month. DillosDizResort.com. Over there, when we have one of these chat episodes that we record, as we are about to do for this Thursday's podcast of Theme Park Thursday with Dillos Diz. We do it here on the fancy stream for the guests who have checked in to DillosDizResort.com. So tonight we're doing that for everyone to give you an idea of what happens at the resort. We'll see if anything that makes it to the stream it has to get edited out for the podcast on Thursday. That's usually what the resort guests have a little inside baseball on. And Jen, good evening.
Oh, hello. Welcome back from across the world. We'll get into that in a moment. We have a lot to talk about. As you talk about what gets edited out of the live stream last week, special thanks to Mr. Dillo for sitting in as co-host. A lot got cut out, so the resort guests got to see a lot more stories, a lot more tangents and shenanigans, and it got condensed for the actual podcast. But I don't know if you heard, I was plugging the resort in the beginning and the end of the episode. I've never been more impressed with myself, quite honestly.
Yeah, next up, Jen promotes the podcast in public.
Ooh. Let's not get crazy.
I on my way home because it was the night before I left for Iceland last week. I was walking home from the subway, so I had the stream on in my ear, and I heard you tell Mr. Snidell 3 different times, "I'm taking this out of the podcast. Don't say anything else. I'm taking this out of the podcast. I'm taking this out of the podcast."
Like, we will not continue that further. This will not go. I like all these words that Lewis is coming up with. Tangenigans, Shanatangents. I don't know. Yeah. And Nate is congratulating me on marketing. Thanks, Nate. You know, I do what I can, but I'm only doing it here. And so there's still a lot of steps to go.
There are many steps here. Jen, meanwhile, sends me a 3-page text today about the future of Dillos Diz. And I'm like, you gotta get out and tell somebody about it first. First step, get out and tell
Apparently
somebody.
We don't. I've learned the last few days while you've been gone. Apparently we don't. While you were gone, here's what happened. Here's our next steps. Let's go.
But I'm not going to tell anybody about it directly.
Yeah, correct. And also, I understand you probably have some jet lag, so take a minute. But then we're going to need to get back to this.
Yeah, and then I sent the text of Boo from Monsters, where she's just like, blink, 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 blink.
What? Yeah.
And every time I pulled that text up so far today, it has been the same. So we're here on the YouTube channel. Go ahead and do the thumbs up thing, the like thing now while we have a moment ahead of the Theme Park Thursday podcast. We wanted to make sure here this recording had like the Disney spin on it. So I was in Iceland for 4 days last week. I returned on Sunday, and you know, they're when you grow up with the Walt Disney World trips in your life as your family vacation, you have certain mindsets about things, and you gotta like try to rewire the brain when you go different places.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have a lot to talk about there. I have Theme Park Thursday live style, which we'll do on our YouTube channel on Thursday night this week because it's applicable. It's applicable. It's one of the both. And so I have 3 topics or subjects to kind of frame the conversation. Otherwise, we'll be off to the races because a lot has happened in Iceland the last week.
Mm-hmm.
It started the moment that we landed, basically. But Jen, is there anything before we get into it that I missed in the theme park world? I feel like everyone and we had the FOMO because anytime I pulled up the social media, someone we knew was in a Disney park over the last couple of days.
It just goes like that. Those ebbs and flows of all of our friends are there, or no, it's never that no one's there. It's just 1 or 2 people then. Yes, I do feel like there was a running list in my head of, oh my God, we're going to have to talk about all of these things.
Yeah.
But we're going to have to talk about his trip. So maybe I don't take proper note of this. So maybe we save that for Theme Park Thursday live. But I will say, back to your point regarding when, you only grow up going to Disney and then you go someplace else in the world. Weird. I think what probably helped you, correct me if I'm wrong, is that there is no Iceland in World Showcase.
Correct.
So, like one day when I go to Paris, I'll be like, I've seen this in Epcot. What do I need to see this Eiffel Tower for? It's in Epcot. It's fine. There's nothing. I mean, you had a little bit of a Frozen connection, but you didn't have an entire pavilion that maybe you could do too many comparisons to. But maybe I'm wrong and we can get there. But
no, there's one key element that went into the decision-making process in Iceland. But before we move away from Walt Disney World, people visiting the parks this weekend,
yes.
that second weekend of November, pretty interesting. People like to go on the second weekend of November.
That's true. But in fairness, up here, and we always dictate the crowds in Disney by what's happening in New York, because as if that's how the world works, that we had a weird school schedule, especially out here on Long Island, where we had Tuesday and Friday off. So I feel like a lot of people pulled kids this week too, and it became like the new family vacation week.
We get ahead of that Thanksgiving rush that will happen.
Exactly.
So I was in Iceland.
Like you do.
Like a quick jaunt.
Yeah.
To Iceland. There was a lot of news in Iceland as soon as I arrived. It actually started before I arrived. So let's try to get that out of the way before I break it down into the 3 topics or subjects. I don't know how to describe it, and I know I'll be factually incorrect and there'll be a lot of mispronunciations throughout this live stream. Iceland is an island, right? The Arctic is there, and the North Atlantic is there, and it's like the most earthly place you will ever be because of how it is. It's glacier and volcano and lava rocks everywhere, and they're 95% geothermal. Everything is by the earth. They run on the earth, basically.
Yeah.
It is the craziest phenomenon. And I'm gonna, we'll talk about the planning process in a little bit, but I didn't do that much research. And so
obviously,
once you're
this is what we do with trips. We don't do research with trips.
And the information is penetrating the brain when you're finally there, and you're just like, wait, what? It's like, oh wow, that when you really get the scope of what this island, how self-contained it really is in many ways. It's really phenomenal. And when you have that kind of earthly phenomena, you're going to have a lot of, earthy phenomenons happen. And, one of the big things is about the island. Normally, in a week, there'll be 100 earthquakes on the island.
Sure.
Like that is
a normal week.
a normal week,
Yeah.
I think the Wikipedia says 100 or Google, one or the other, but people are saying like 50 to 100, and most of them you don't feel them, they're not measurable, and people just, all right, the earth shakes, fine.
Mhm.
So recently, the increase of earthquakes has doubled, tripled, and it got to a point of Mrs. Dillo started receiving emails because the thing they tell you for the tourists arriving, the best thing to do when you land is go right away to the Blue Lagoon. It's a thermal bath. It's warm. It's refreshing. It'll relieve your jet lag. That is the perfect thing to go and spend your money on right away. It's like character dining, but in a hot bath. And
it's basically an Ohana breakfast, but right. In the Blue Lagoon.
Go right there, hit your 10:30 reservation after your 6:30 flight. That's all we're saying. And so we're like, okay, let's do that. We'll play the tourist role. We're fine. So a couple of days before, Mrs. Dillo was getting these emails. Hey, just so you know, there's just some unusual activity going on here, just outside the Blue Lagoon. The earthquakes are intense. You may want to consider canceling your reservation. It's not recommended to go. And Mrs. Dillo gets another one of these as we're driving to Mom and Papa Dillo's before we go to the airport. And she's like, what do you think? And I'm like, we're going. She's like, you realize that if there's an earthquake that happens that triggers, and that's what's happening, is that all these earthquakes are starting to cause a potential for volcanic eruption. I didn't mention that part until right now. That then we're in it. We're we're part of the experience. I was like, well, we're going to experience Iceland. What do you want me to do? So again, the different mindset of, there's 3 hurricanes coming off the shore of Florida. Maybe no, go to but we gotta try to go to Disney. It's a bubble. It's a bubble. So
can I interrupt for one moment,
sure,
please?
Yeah.
Okay. First off, if we had a Disney trip planned, right? And they were like, there's 3 hurricanes headed for Orlando. We're not going to Disney.
Now, one hurricane, let's talk about our 2018 trip that started this whole podcast. We were supposed to go in September of 2017, and I think that was Irma. We waited until the last possible second before we pulled that plug.
But we didn't go now, did we?
But we didn't
now,
go.
You're telling me you are receiving warnings about this leading up, and you personally, who you're a little... Sometimes with traveling, you're a little bit like, I don't know. You're like, hey, there's a bunch of earthquakes happening and volcanoes may go up. And you're like, well, let's roll the dice. Is that what's happening on this drive?
I've had a lot of discovery about myself the last 6 months that at that point, like I was in a place of I'm already traveling to, I don't need further angst. So we go. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's interesting that you phrase it as I don't need further angst. So let me go into where all the things are happening.
I'm not a good traveler in general. We know. So yeah, I have not traveled over the ocean since of March 2020. Right. So this is like, I feel like I'm a little different than I was than compared to 2019 when I was a bad traveler. So you can take that either way.
Yeah, right.
So we travel Iceland Air. It's great. It feels like a nothing flight. Before I continue, what movie did I watch on the flight? We know traditionally I watch rom-coms. I will say it was not a rom-com this time. But drop it in the chat if you know what movie on Iceland Air. Yeah.
I have one. I have a guess. I don't want to ruin anyone else's guess.
Yeah, don't influence the chat.
All right, I won't influence it.
But I was surprised. Just I'll stay on track here a little bit. There was a direct flight coming in from Orlando to Iceland. Direct flight. We met someone later who took a direct flight from Minneapolis to Iceland.
Yeah.
I was surprised, I think, at the extensiveness of the cities you could travel directly to Iceland.
Right.
I would think, you got to go over to Dublin and then, puddle jump over an ocean, or something similar of that vein. Joe Walters versus the volcano.
Winner guess.
Snakes on a plane.
Mm.
Or airport. Listen, when JetBlue first became like a bigger thing, and we took JetBlue more post 9/11. The DirecTV, I always found myself on some sort of airline crisis show on DirecTV all the time.
Yes.
So no Airport 77, Airport 78. The movie I watched was Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
That was not my guess. So,
what was your guess? Sorry, I ruined your guess.
No, that's fine. It ruined it. What if that was no, I was going to continue since the last one you watched was Moneyball, as did I. I was going to go with Major League if you were just keeping with yeah.
I won't talk about this right now. I'll talk about it another time. But so we land at 7 a.m. Iceland time. Or maybe it was 6:30, I guess. But what had happened minutes before is that the largest earthquake of the of the week last week, maybe up until another point at 6 a.m. It was like over a 5 or whatever, and so that prompted the Blue Lagoon, like, we're shutting down for a week. Yeah. We're not taking the tourist money anymore. We're shutting down, and sorry to everyone who booked. And so that was the email as we're waiting for our bus transfer to the Blue Lagoon. So yeah, pretty much as Theme Park Rob pointed out, I landed and there was an earthquake in Iceland.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this prompts a pivot in the vacation, and then we it then carries through of these earthquakes continue, and they're small in nature. And it gets to Friday night, and there's another large one in like the 6 o'clock hour that prompts everyone to they evacuate to town, and they think the volcanic eruption is imminent. Now it's Monday, it's 3 days later. They still believe that way. The crack in the street that leads to the town that they evacuated, that was noticeable on Friday, is now the steam is rising from that crack. And they evacuated the town because the lava could be running underneath that town, the city, whatever. And, so that everyone was waiting all weekend. And to say that the town, the city of Reykjavik, the people we talked to, their level of emotion ranged from to pure adrenaline excitement. That's every day. Even though that volcano before 2021 didn't erupt for 815 years or something. It was some crazy. Now it's been 2021, 2022, 2023. Well, it hasn't yet, but now there's a cycle happening. Yeah. So the chief goal was to get, we're just at this point, Thursday and Friday and Saturday, it's just like, this is what it is. Sunday, which was the departure day, I was like, I gotta get out of here. I can't be here when I was like, if I'm here when it happens, okay. But Sunday, I was like, I gotta go. So that's when that kind of anxiety kicked in.
Okay, so yes, all very interesting. And for us, over here in the US, we were seeing Iceland trend on the Twitter X or wherever else. You start seeing the news stories pop up. Now, listen, I am aware of Iceland, and probably in the last decade have I taken interest in maybe I'd go there at some point. Probably before a decade ago, I didn't think about it much, and I just have I have heard good things about it. I have now know more people that have been, all the things. But also, I have never really seen much in the news. I haven't seen it trend before. I haven't really taken much note to it. But obviously, we're all taking note to it in our one channel Discord, which is tied to Dillos Diz Resort. everyone starts talking about it. I think it's funny because you would drop in here and there to the Discord, and at one point you put in one of the news stories, and you're like, "We're not near here," and our friend Theme Park Rob is like, "It's an island." Yeah, you are. Like, what do you mean you're not near there? Like, you're not far. And so yeah, so it was interesting to watch from this side of things, and
Right.
like also wondering like, oh, what's happening. But I did see the headline. I think it was Saturday. Yeah, it was Saturday morning, maybe here, where it was like, it's this volcano's going in the next few days, at between now and a few days from now. I'm like, oh, at any time, that's great, that's fine, this is fine. They got about 24 hours left. Like, what is happening there? So I think one of my questions to you, and
Yes.
and before we get to maybe some of the high points and the cool stuff you did get to do, aside from the Blue Lagoon,
Yes.
was there anything else canceled or that you had to pivot from, and you did not get to do?
No, and the thing, the thing is about, I mean, there's a lot of tourists,
Mhm,
and Reykjavik is 25 miles, I guess, outside of where like the town they evacuated, which I'm not gonna be able to pronounce, so I won't. It begins with the
mhm.
letter G,
Yeah.
and Grifavik maybe, but no, everything else was as is. So the Blue Lagoon, because here's what they said about it. They said, should there be an eruption,
Mhm.
the lava could begin to flow into the lagoon within 3 minutes. And, I think they made the right call.
Yeah, 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 that's probably a good one. Mhm.
Yeah. So that was the main thing, and everyone else, even they said, because I think there was something in 2010. I forget, one of the tour guides said it, that forced a lot of shutdown of airports,
Mhm.
not just in Iceland, but I think Scotland,
Yeah.
and Northern Europe. Um, but I think they said, but the last couple of eruptions haven't caused that.
Mhm.
And then, the immediate response is, yes, but you haven't had 1,500 earthquakes in 48 hours,
Yeah.
which is what they had. They
Yep.
had nearly 1,500 earthquakes in a 48-hour span, which caused the euphoria for our many citizens of Iceland, which, again, wh- again, maybe it's enough detachment from reality, but you're going, all right, this is cool. This is part of the experience. This is an
Uh-huh.
Icelandic adventure.
Yeah. It's very immersive.
It's
Wow.
it's
I
very
did
immersive. It was, and that was it was the intent was to kind of have an Icelandic adventure. We had originally planned it for mid-December, but there's a wedding that's happening that weekend. We wanted more like a festive holiday thing.
Mhm.
Um, so this is why we pivoted to the anniversary weekend, and we also, we knew that Iceland would bring out the best for our arrival here.
Yeah, for sure. Um, all right. So going back
Hmm.
a little bit, first of all, I have to give credit because although I said Jeffers was a winning comment for tonight,
Hmm.
this one may be in the running. So,
Minute and a
okay.
half.
So going back a little bit, can you tell us, like, as someone who, mostly will choose Disney as a trip, but you
Right.
have expanded, especially since being with Mrs. Dillo, you have done a lot of traveling.
Yes.
Um, what made you guys want to see Iceland? Did it live up to expectations aside from some things happening? Did you get to see everything you wanted to see aside from the Blue Lagoon? Go from, like, what you had in mind to what the actual experience was.
Yeah, I think what's hard about Iceland in general, and I'll show you my three topics, and then
Oh, right, you had those.
yeah, but there was like a bonus topic,
Okay.
so which is, I wish I had them as one of the three now, but I'll talk about touring plans, because a lot of seeing Iceland has to do with tours.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
a lot of that planning and everything else, involves like how long how long you're staying there for, how long is the day of the plans that you're doing, etc. Topic number 2, we got the food and wine and beer, because you want to talk about, part of the reasons. And then topic number 3 is the attractions, which is a lot of the sites and the things to do there. So with the touring plans, I think there were two things about it, because we talked about it a lot. We were like, when did we start talking about Iceland? We were having those conversations of like, how did this come to be? And a lot of people we know, and whether it's a New York City thing or whatever, have been talking about taking trips to Iceland. And it became like the cool place to go. Some people, and we'll show a picture, there's Game of Thrones like landscapes there. They used a lot of those locations for Games of Thrones. If you go further out, which I did not, Star Wars Rogue One, the glacier, Force Awakens. So there's the sites are stunning, and I think that was part of it. We've done Paris and London and Rome and Florence and things like that over the last 12 years or so. Mrs. Dillo brings out a little more adventure in me. But one of the like really cool trips, we went to Maui about 8 years ago, and I would say that was a combination of probably like Mrs. Dillo's like perfect vacation, which is a beach vacation plus like seeing these kind of spectacular sights, the views, as it were.
Yeah.
So a lot of that was a big part of it, and I'll probably say it at the end again, but there were Christmas holiday decor. They were starting to set up for the holidays. People were playing Christmas music. I mean, the sun comes up at 9:30 and starts going down at 3:45. They need Christmas, and they said blatantly, the sooner we can bring out the Christmas, the better.
Yeah.
And so that started. So there was a little of that too, of like, oh, this cute, quaint, European city, bordering tectonic plate wise on North America, with and no crime. Like their prison is closed. They don't have incarcerations. So you don't have that kind of, and we're from New York City, so there's just like a different guard up.
Yeah.
But the thing they tell you in Paris is like, just protect your stuff with your life. And then that gives you a certain kind of stress, where with this, it's like, you don't let your guard down completely, but you don't have to worry about this. So the big thing becomes, how do you plan it? And we did we had a short trip, right? We had 3 days and Sunday morning, and how do you choose? Now there outside, with Reykjavik, there's kind of like there's this one side of the island to do 1-day tours, and then there's you go out to Vic and further if you want the glacier and the snowmobiling, and you take a helicopter and you take a chopper and you land on the glacier. Like there's that kind of stuff that I think a longer stay requires.
Yeah.
So I know people who went for like 8 to 12 days, who people I work with and things like that. I'm like, I don't even. How do you? I don't know. I don't know how you have that many adventures in one trip. Do you have a resort day in between there that you take a break?
Do you go back in the middle of the day and take a nap?
So the planning, I would say, was a little stressful, and Miss Dillo takes all of that on because I get very, very anxious about it, and I don't want to pick the wrong one. We did not use a specific travel planner. We got some, as I see in the chat here, we got some tips from some Facebook groups and things like that, and then did I just
okay, I was like I hear you. Oh, now I don't see you or hear. I'm like, am I the only one on the screen and just mine?
Had to stay.
There you are.
What? Oh, you did that, or did I do that?
I have no idea.
That's interesting.
But I heard you, and then I was like, but I only see me.
All right, for audio podcast
Yeah, I
purposes,
know.
everyone.
29 minutes.
So Mrs. Dillo does all that planning because I get very anxious about it. I don't want to pick the wrong thing. I don't want to pick the wrong company. I don't want to, like, it all makes me very nervous. Dr. Val mentioned, did we use a travel planner? We did a little, there was like Facebook groups for Iceland, and people then like do a DM on the other side, like, hey, I do this on the side if you want somewhere to recommend
Mhm.
it. We talked to a couple people, and then really we're like, all right, now we have then we had to like step back and go, okay, what do we really want to do?
Mhm.
And so we kept it, you know, to two main tours. We did a Golden Circle tour, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and we did. I've tried to listen to the pronunciation of this all day for this
Mhm.
live stream. Is the Snaefellus Peninsula, and those were our two main tours: Golden Circle on Friday, Peninsula on Saturday. We had the Blue Lagoon set for Thursday with a food tour. And then Sunday morning we left open whether we'd book something late, and do that. And then in the evening we had a Northern Lights tour planned for Friday night because uh, if you needed a backup night because you didn't see it, it was cloudy, whatever. Then we had Saturday night, but we also booked a reservation on the Saturday night at Dill, which is the only Michelin rated restaurant in Iceland.
Mhm.
So that was like, well, if the tour fails, then we'll bump the reservation on Saturday. That being said, do not go to Iceland if you are putting all your eggs in that basket.
Mhm.
If you're going to Iceland and saying, I'm going because I've seen pictures of the Northern Lights
Mhm.
that, I need to see that with my own eyes, you're not Dilloing your expectations.
Uh-huh.
You're setting yourself up to see every attraction in the Magic Kingdom without Genie Plus on Christmas Day,
Mhm.
basically. Like, you can't rely on it. It's not dependable. And I think most people get that, but some people don't.
Mhm.
And I'll explain what happened with us because
Mhm.
it was a little crazy. But picking the right touring plans is a challenge. And 2 days before we left, two of our three tours canceled because due to not enough people.
Mhm.
So, which the company was very nice and rebooked us with other companies. But we had chosen that company, or Mrs. Dillo had chosen that company based on the reviews
Mhm.
and the feedback, and not necessarily on the companies we ended up going with. Oddly enough, those two I will not talk about. I'll talk about the sites, not
Mhm.
necessarily the tour guides.
Interesting. Very interesting. Before you go to your
Mhm.
next topic, I would
Yes.
like to answer Val's question. Would Frank only go on Disney vacations if Mrs. Dillo didn't plan these adventures? It's an excellent question. Val.
I don't think I would have gone to as many places. I
Mhm.
would like to think I still haven't gone to California, so here we are. Uh, so I would like Paris. I probably would have went to. Still don't know to this day how I convinced Mrs. Dillo to go to Disneyland Paris for a day.
Right. Uh-huh.
Uh, I've always wanted to go to Tokyo. I don't know how I'm ever getting on a plane for that long anymore.
Mhm.
But yeah, in short, Dr. Val, not as many places.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good question though.
Mhm.
And that's anywhere, right? With tours, like as a former Universal Studios tour guide once
Mhm.
upon a time, you know, uh, I wished that I was a better tour guide than I was. And I think part of it is you're trained not to be like, look at me, but
Mhm.
it requires a certain, and really why I'll talk about the two tour guides I really liked um, soon, soonish, that I, you know, I wish it had a little bit of my personality in when I did tours at Universal, where I felt like I was given the information. I knew all the information, loved the information, loved sharing the information, enjoyed the time of the group. But I don't know if they ever got to see like my personality, or I don't know if I was really ever myself on the tours. I mean, we joked on at the meetup that I wore because I lost my name tag for a little while. I wore a Francois name tag for a while, but. Was I prone to leave you at the animal actors stage so I could go have lunch? Is that the right thing to do? I don't think so, but it happened a couple of times.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, it might have happened.
Yeah.
But the tour guide makes it, and so even when we talk about Disney trips and the tours, or last year we were talking a lot about, it'd be cool to do the tour at Halloween Horror Nights because you get a little more background and the stories behind the houses, and that would be cool. I think a lot of feeling like you got your money's worth is based on the guide, and that really is. Where's that at? What was somebody saying? Talking about me jumping in a swimming pool?
Yes. Val is saying you didn't jump in swimming pools for every tour you have led.
No.
But only just some allegedly again.
I always started with Twister though, because I did. That's a little known fact about my tours at Universal Studios. Food and wine and beer. Oh my. The first thing that we did after, because we got to do early check-in for an extra cost because we could not go to the Blue Lagoon, and we then had the food tour in the afternoon, so we had time to sleep. And first of all, we also had to figure the heat in our room had to, there's a lot of temperature control you have to do in Iceland. You bundle, and then you feel hot, and then you're cold, and then one room is hotter than it's all very strange. But the hotel we stayed at, the Alda Hotel, was no relation to Alan Alda. But I was glad it made me more comfortable to be there.
Right. Did you watch MASH inside the room, or?
We did not. There was the cable channels were limited. And very convenient to everything. Everything centralized in Reykjavik, close to the bus stop where we needed to get on for our tours. So can't recommend the hotel. Like, the hotel is fantastic, and really enjoyed it. Enjoyed the room. Enjoyed the space in the room. The staff was great. The breakfast served was great. And like I said, just easily accessible to get around the city. So that was definitely cool. But we had this tour of you hit 5 joints basically on the food tour in the afternoon. We met at the music hall. I don't know if it's harp or whatever. Well, again, the pronunciations are going to escape me. But we got this food tour with Wake Up Reykjavik. And met our tour guide at 3:30. It was about a 4 to 5 hour. It was 4-hour food tour for 5 places, and her name was Bryn, and she was fantastic. And I can't recommend her enough to anybody going on this food tour. And I will tell you why in as few points as I can. One, she's 19 years old, so you're getting your finger on the pulse of like current.
The cool stuff.
Like, this is cool stuff, but also like, here's your dose of reality. We're not gonna here is how living is. Here's how I'm living here. Here's what the families before me were like living here. Just really straightforward and to the point, and just totally engaging. And the thing that she did that was really great, and I wrote it in my Google review, was that she was able to engage the other people in our group in a way that then made all of us engage with each other as we walked from one place to the other. Where, you'd be like, okay, hi, I'm your guide. Here we go. And you walk.
Yeah.
And I say that as a former tour guide. It's what I did. Hi, I'm Frank.
Yeah.
Let's go to Twister. And
keep up, everybody.
And not like, oh, where are you from? Oh, how, like, oh, we have, what kind of food do you like? And things like that. So she just did that in a way that then made for conversation in between all these places, and it stayed consistent because people get tired. You walking around a lot, it can be a lot of things. But she kept it interesting the whole time. I will now give the chat an opportunity to guess what type of animal I tried as food.
Oh,
for the very first time. It's not raccoon. So don't get funny, Jeffers, in the chat. There is an animal that I tried as meat for the very first time on this tour. It was the first stop. It was the option. You could have the lamb option or this other option. You want the mint jelly with the lamb?
That's a story for an after show.
Yeah.
Also, can I just go back? Did you name the hotel you stayed at when you were pointing out how great it was?
Yeah, the Alda Hotel. No relation to
no relation to Alda. Okay. Lewis hadn't mentioned that earlier. So we're okay, good. So elk, bison, lemur. Is it lemur? Yeah, lemur, right? Yeah. I was thinking bison in my head too. But I was like, I almost feel like you've had that before. But
the answer, and I can't believe I'm actually, because I was like, I'm not going to say it. The answer is horse.
Oh no! What?
Adventure is out there.
No, it's not.
It wasn't easy, but I did.
No.
There's just silence.
No. Yeah, there's a lot of
losing listeners and viewers as we.
I mean, we may have to edit that out because we lose so many podcast listeners.
All right, then I'll start the next part. It's down to time. As we had lamb. We had a lobster taco at another place, which was very good.
Delicious.
We had we had like a little 3-course meal with char, which is food in Iceland, and a burrata, which was really good. And then we had cake as dessert, and then maybe my favorite thing in all of Reykjavik, which was a hot dog at let's see if I can pull it up here. A hot dog at it's not going to show. Did I exit out by accident? I'm going to really be mad.
I have to share my screen.
I can't share my screen because I exited out. Oh no, there it is. Okay, if I could see it there, then why is it not anywhere else? Being very difficult.
Waiting for the photo. People have been waiting for a slideshow of photos this whole time.
Is that true?
That is true.
So I'm no Disney pick a day here when it comes to sharing photos. So here's the hot dog stand here, and I will bring up.
For those listening to the audio, be sure to check out our YouTube page where you can see these photos during our live.
So this hot dog stand, and I don't want to steal all the secrets of Bryn's tour, but she talked about this place is popping all day long. It's outdoors on a corner, and this hot dog is the greatest thing. It is. You take the bun and they put the fried onions on the bottom, or is it the raw onions first? Raw onions and then fried onions, and then like there's ketchup and the hot dog and like a Icelandic condiment, and then mustard, and it is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean,
so good. It's like one of those hot dogs that has like the real snap to it. There was a great place in Brooklyn. It's not here anymore. It was called Barks, but that was that had those kind of snap hot dogs to them. And I didn't say horse dogs, Jeffers, in the chat. I see you. I said hot dogs. No.
I have a question, and I don't know if you'll know the answer to this, but representing the gluten-free community.
Yes.
Do you know if the gluten issue is big over there or not? Because I have heard I can go to like Italy and Italy, Germany, yummy, yummy. I can go to these places and eat bread, and it does not. However, although in fairness, gluten has a weird effect on me of putting me to sleep. But I hear that it's not the same things in what you're eating in
Mhm.
other countries than it is in this country.
I have heard similar. I no one asked this question, but I know we're gonna keep horse in the podcast now because horse is gluten free. Um, but I did notice there were beers on menus that mentioned that they were gluten free. So I
Hmm,
don't know
interesting.
if there's some cases where it is apparent, like in some
Right.
beers, but yes, I have heard that about European cities with
Yeah.
bread, or it's the same thing with wine in like Italy. They don't put the sulfates in it, so you don't
Yeah.
get a headache from the wine.
Hmm.
So I would say you're probably in better shape than most.
Yeah. Interesting. I,
There's
I
a
mean,
lot
I
of
didn't
good.
expect you to do gluten-free research while you were there, but just, in case you heard anyone talking about anything.
Yeah, so I'm not going to pronounce the name of this hot dog place. I mean, I think
Yeah.
if you look up famous hot dog stand in Iceland, if you're listening to the audio,
Yeah.
then you know that what we're talking about here. There's one
Maybe
in the
we'll post
airport as
some of
well.
these pics on the Instas so
Yeah, I'll do
people
it on
can
the
scroll
Instas.
through as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I got a lot of pictures to share. So for
Mhm.
sure. And then yeah, we had a cake there. But shout out to Bryn on the food tour with Wake Up Reykjavik. She was great. I recommend her. She wants to go to college in the States.
Mm,
She either wants to go to Florida or Arizona. She wants to be warm for 4 years.
mm.
So if
Makes
anyone
sense.
wants to start a GoFundMe for Bryn, by all means.
Don't you have connections at UCF anymore? You're an
Yeah.
alumni.
Nah, she wants to go to Miami.
Oh,
Benvenido a Miami.
yeah. Mhm.
So that was the food tour. I can't believe I actually, revealed. That's how much I love everyone in our listening audience and viewing audience.
I mean, I hope
About,
you loved them.
I'll never live
They're
it down,
they're gone
ever.
now, so
No, never. But there I am. But
what I mean,
yeah,
now since we're keeping it in the podcast, now
yeah,
there's follow-up questions.
yes.
What did it taste like? It's so sad.
Here's the thing. So the presentation was very good. So there was a lot of, the reduction, the
Uh-huh.
the red wine reduction. So it was like a fillet.
Yeah.
No, I mean, listen, I didn't think I was gonna do it. So again, apparently I go to cities even though a volcano might erupt. And when I'm there, I might sample horse. I'm not saying like I ate like they didn't like put a leg on the plate.
Sure. Oh God, don't. I think I might cry if you talk about it like that. Um, how did they serve it on a silver platter? Um, was it tough? How was it prepared?
It wasn't
These are
tough. No. Yeah.
was
It was it
do you
was
prepare it like a
it,
medium or well, or do you
yeah, I would say it
decide
was
on that?
medium. It had a pinkish hue.
Uh-huh. Just, I you know what
For the
I
podcast.
really try my for the content. I try my best. I think on the Magical Mommy Monday podcast, I used to come from the judgment-free zone. I'm finding that very difficult in this moment, and I'm so
Uh,
sad.
yeah, there's a lot of good one-liners in the chat right now.
You grew
So
up right by Belmont, for God's
this is
sakes.
what if you join DillosDizResort.com,
This is what you'd be
this
seeing.
is what you'll be seeing in the one channel Discord all the time on the live streams we do over at the resort. All right, can we move
All right,
on? Or
let's
we're gonna
move
get
on.
it's
I
gonna
think I
be
was just making sure there are no other questions
yeah.
about the horse.
A
Horses,
lot of
horses,
Christmas beers,
horses.
a lot of
Mhm.
Christmas beers, happy Christmas beers, uh, throughout the city. Got a lot to sample, a lot of holiday. We got to bring home some Christmas beers, which was
Oh.
nice. I'll take a picture of that and put it on the Instas as well. Oh, case is sitting in the
Right.
fridge right now. And then on Saturday night, I mentioned Dill, which is the Michelin. It's a 1-star Michelin restaurant in Reykjavik. 18-course meal. That was
Oh
on
my
our actual
God.
anniversary.
Wow.
And I don't know if I've ever tried this animal before, because it's possible I did it in like a different form. But
Mhm.
what animal did I
Oh,
try in
no.
fillet form at the 18-course dinner?
Oh,
Drop it in
no.
the chat.
I think someone said it earlier. I'm gonna go personally with ostrich
Oh,
as like
ostrich
a
is a good guess.
yeah.
It was goose.
Oh.
I mean, it's a little more. You
Yeah.
just picturing all the geese running around Roosevelt Field, crossing the
Yeah.
street over
I have
there.
geese that come down my block sometimes. In 2020, geese were on our lawn.
I'm gonna
Because
say
2020 was a
that
different time.
the Americans here in this chat judging me about what I ate.
They're so American.
Oh,
Oh,
Lewis, talk about
the
him. He
horse
sound a
the
little
horse
hoarse.
jokes have not stopped. Love it.
It's relentless in the chat.
It will live on forever.
Mm,
Mhm.
I'm distracting now.
Was it Canadian goose?
Oh, I don't know. I think it was
Oh,
Canadian
no.
goose.
That's a personal shot, I think.
Oh, brother.
Oh, goodness.
So topic number 3 here is the attractions. Again, I'm not going to be able to pronounce things that well, but on Friday we did the Golden Circle tour, and the Golden Circle is it's like a whole tourist route in the southern port, like, I guess it's southern portion of Iceland. So it's about 190 miles total. It's a 10-hour tour we took that day. We did the national park, we did the waterfall, we did some geysers. I got some pics, so let me share the screen for
Okay.
that.
Sharing the screen again 2 times in one
I know
podcast.
I got some sharing to do in the screens.
Here we
Okay,
go.
uh, so this is in the national park, which was our first stop on the. Can you see it?
Can everyone see my screen? Yes.
So really, and again, it looks like the sun. Oh, you were there at sunrise? It's 10:05. So I mean, then that's just how it was, because the
Mhm.
sun doesn't even get to that like noon high point.
Yeah.
It's just kind of just hangs low all day. Um, what was really fascinating about learning about again, not doing research beforehand, was that uh, Iceland is in both Europe and North America. And
Mhm.
this is basically the point in this national park where you could be standing in Europe and you're looking at America,
Yeah.
in North America. And because you see where the shift of the plates are, and how the gaps are there. So
Pretty
that
crazy.
was, it's crazy. And,
Mhm.
again, maybe I should have done my research, but the first 2 times that it was mentioned, I was like, is he joking? Is the guy joking about this? I was like, "Oh, no, he's serious." So, is Jeffers I don't know if Jeffers is making jokes anymore or not. It's not the Northern Lights.
Yeah.
It's just 10 AM in the Golden Circle
Yes.
there. So this geyser erupts every 8 to 10 minutes.
Mm.
Am I gonna be able to pronounce it? Probably not.
Mhm.
I think it's pronounced Stroke. I don't,
Mm.
but
Sounds good.
in this park, there's 2 geysers. One is dormant, and then this one erupts. I think Wikipedia says 10 to 15 minutes, but the tour guide was like, it's like more like 6 to 8 minutes.
Mm.
So yeah, you can get that close and take that kind of. Well, I'll post some videos for the resort as well,
Mhm.
from this. So again, you're just kind of seeing the natural beauty of the island. And again, what's amazing is like here's the first day where it was like 35 degrees or whatever, temperature wise. So it was kind of nice. And you're seeing this kind of landscape, and then it like contrasts greatly to the peninsula the next day.
Yeah.
So we got the waterfall here, where did I lose it? Do you have it?
No, we saw it. Yeah, you're
Okay.
good.
With the waterfall, which I will pronounce as, am I going to say it right? I don't want to make sure I'm reading it when I say it. Oh gosh, it looks like Gulfus, but it's not said that way. So Gullfoss. And it's funny because the tour guide told like the story that the daughter of the owner or the property owner or whatever, like fought like the British who wanted to like build a dam, in front of it. And then I read on Wikipedia today that story was not true. I was like, who is right? This tour guide or
Right?
Wikipedia? I don't know. So again, I apologize. I'm not Disney Pick-a-Day here, but was able to capture part of the rainbow. A rainbow at a waterfall. And so that was really cool as well. Not pictured, but we went to, there's not a lot of vegetables to eat in Iceland. There is a lot of meat, and there is though we went on this tour to this awesome tomato greenhouse, but it was a whole restaurant, and all the tomatoes were produced inside this greenhouse. They had the smartest bees I've ever seen in my life pollinating these plants, like just flying around you, not bothering you. Again, American bees versus Icelandic bees. I don't know. And then we had lunch there with a really great tomato soup and the bread and the pastries and the cinnamon rolls. Anything that was in a bakery again for your gluten loving self. It was really really fantastic. And this is the tomatoes. I was like, okay, there should be more of these. So we should be producing different kinds of vegetables in all these type of greenhouses. So that was really cool as well. This is the next day at the peninsula. Again, it's Snæfellsnes. I don't know. But this picture here, it's the volcano, and then there's the glacier on top of the volcano. That's what you're looking at in this picture. Like, and I'll post better ones in the resort. But it's there's some angles where you can see how the snow melted and how everything came down. Every side of this looks different. But yeah, it's like to say like, oh, here's a volcano that has a glacier on top of it.
Yeah,
like,
that's nuts.
And there's like one lonely house. Like, who's living out
Right.
so that was really cool. And if I can pull up, is there anything else to say? So here's we'll get to Friday night here. So here's one of my pictures of the Northern Lights. I only have like 2 pictures to share right now for this. So I really want to shout out Magnus, who was our tour guide on the Northern Lights tour on Friday night. And he was awesome. Again, don't put all your eggs in the Northern Lights basket. Friday night, it was cloudy on Friday during the day. Most people were like, it's not going to be a good night for the Northern Lights. The company even like reached out and said, hey, it's not going to be great. Do you want to, move off the date to somewhere else? So where it might be more opportune. And we decided, let's just go with it. we kind of wanted the dinner on Saturday night, which was our anniversary. So we're like, let's just go with it and see what happens. And I want to make sure I get the company name right, but let me see if, and maybe afterwards I'll drop all the companies that we did on the tours that I really want to make mention of. I think I have every single one except the Northern Lights one in here. Maybe that's why I didn't know it by name. So Magnus totally did the right thing. He is that he got on the tour. He is the tour guide that you want for this, where there might not be hope. Every day there's like a count, like 1 to 9. What chance of you having the Northern Lights? And he gets on and he goes, you know what? We're going to make the most of this. We're going to do the best we can. I'm going to try to take it to like locations where we might have a good opportunity based on the kind of night. Now he's got the app, he's got the weather, he's got the clouds, what the clouds are doing, the whole thing. You know, people were talking to us during the day. Oh, I was on a boat and I didn't see anything. And then there were people like, I was in a national park and I didn't see anything. He was like, we're just going to go look for it. Now he was equally as hype for the volcano to erupt that night. And what he really wanted was the twofer. He's like, I want you guys to see the Northern Lights and I want you to see the volcano.
All right, yeah.
And that was it. He was just hyped for that. And so to that, then, you know, he got us hype. It was like, all right, let's just make the most of it. And, you know, it was the closest I've been in a bus with a storm chaser, basically, because he's like, I'm just going to search this out and find it and we'll do the best we can. And I was like, oh, this guy's giving me hope. I don't know. My expectations were 0 for the night. And he found it. Now, what's interesting about this is then the picture is the human eye does not see the green color. The way you can see how it looks in the sky. And if you hold your camera up, you know it's the Northern Lights because of how it reflects off the camera. So in your camera, you can see the green.
Right.
So we're waiting, Mr. Dillo and I are waiting on a lot of great pictures because he was able to set up a tripod and take all these pictures with this awesome camera in front of the Northern Lights, basically. And I don't know if people who were on these other tours who were talking about their disappointment with not seeing the Northern Lights, if they really knew that, it's only if I see green am I seeing the Northern Light. Like, I don't know what they're really thinking. And so you could tell by the anomaly, because a couple of times up at the Renaissance Festival in August, when there were like solar storms or things like that, we would hear about that. And in the parking lot, you could see that it was a different kind of sky. Maybe Jeffers is seeing stuff up in Canada. But, you know, you could just see that the sky looks different. So I was actually able to pick that up early on when we got out to this location. I was like, oh, no, there it is, even though it wasn't green. And I don't know how many people really know that and think they're actually not getting their money's worth. So shout out to Magnus, who was just he got everyone up, and you know it's a 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. tour. So you know he's got to keep it up.
Yeah,
and did a really great job. There are comments in the chat.
So Lewis had been asking why you say that, like just because of the clouds, or are they not there some days? But you kind of address that. And just mentioning the lonely little house, like how do you live out there? But yeah, I mean that is really interesting that like as you're standing there, it looks different, and as you take the picture, you know what's coming through, and yeah. But and I also get that, you know, I'm playing different things out in my head as I'm thinking this through, but like, you know, you mentioned, I think it was your coworker that went for like 10 to 14 days or something.
Yeah.
I guess if you have that kind of time, you have a really good shot of seeing the Northern Lights like you want to see them, where otherwise you may not. You know, for me, and maybe it's because we did lower our expectations, I think I would kind of expect they're not necessarily gonna look how you see them, but I get why you would be like, I'm going to Iceland. I'm gonna see these lights
Yeah.
and I'm gonna see it how I've seen it in every movie, and it's gonna be amazing. That must be tough. And if we relate it back to Disney, it's kind of similar to what we say about, like, to your point, you're going to Disney, I'm going to Magic Kingdom, I'm getting on all the rides. Well, no, you might not,
Yeah.
and that's gotta be okay too.
What do you mean I might not see the Boo to You parade if I go to
Right.
the Not So Scary Halloween party?
Right, exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean, and what's funny about all this is, and this was awesome, right? We know we're gonna have awesome pictures. It was cool just to look out at the sky in the middle of
Yeah.
nowhere, and will not a volcano erupt at the same time. But the night before uh was the here's what I'm gonna say. So sometimes you go out to these kind of, you want to see outside the city lights, everything else.
Mhm,
The city is not like skyscrapers. It's mostly two-story buildings. Why? Because they have a lot of earthquakes.
mhm,
Uh so there's not many tall buildings around. So there's places that written, in books and whatnot say, there are some nights in the city
mhm,
where you can see the northern lights. You don't
mhm.
have to do the tour or go to the desolate location or anything like that. It might just happen over your head.
Right.
So Thursday night, we finished the food tour. We're tired. We're exhausted. We come home. The hotel has a hot tub. And so we're like, well, let's find out where the hot tub is, and just to kind of relax our body, let's go for
Mhm,
30 minutes. So we go, get our bathing suits on. The hotel had nice robes at the Alda. Appreciate that. Come down. You cut through where they have a gym with a couple of saunas because you're in Iceland,
Yeah.
and you walk out the door, and there's this alley it's a small footprint. I call it an alley. It's a negative connotation.
Mhm,
It's the alley of the hotel
mhm.
where um, the hot tub is. So
Yeah.
like, all right, and there's a couple people in there. It's like, all right, let's go into the hot tub. And Mrs. Dillo has her phone just in case anything happens.
Mhm.
And we get the most stunning 10 to 15 minutes of Northern Lights. The Magnus the next day said, "It is probably the best show there was all season."
Oh my god.
And I you were trying to watch it with your own eyes. The video camera was not as good as the, just the still cameras. Even then, it's moving so fast that,
Mhm.
we just got our phone. So that is, an example
Yeah.
of the kind of color. Now that's not because of the camera you're seeing the green. We saw the green,
Right. Yeah, that's crazy.
and we saw purple and
Mhm.
the green going into the purple, and it was just swirling and dancing over
Oh
our head
god.
in the back of the hotel here as we were sitting in the hot tub.
Oh man, that's awesome.
It's people who go for a
Mm.
week
Yeah.
and don't see anything. And on our first night, we're like, okay, so we're not gonna get upset if we don't see them now because
Mhm.
holy cow. And then we
Yeah.
still got a good viewing of them with Magnus the
Yeah.
next night.
That's
So
so crazy.
yeah,
Oh
it was
god.
wild.
Yeah.
Lewis with the population is
Mhm.
372,520. But, that I mean, it's definitely, was the highlight beside the hot dog,
Mhm.
and,
Mhm.
I don't know how you ever see anything like that ever again.
Yeah. No.
It's crazy.
Yeah. That's so cool.
So, I recommend it. I would go back closer to the holidays, a little bit closer just to see more Christmas. The 7-year-old, she last year watched Pentatonic's holiday special where
Uh-huh.
they had fan letters they read what they do at the holidays all over the world. And one of them was from Iceland. So she got into like the Icelandic folklore of Christmas
Mhm.
last year.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of that. So we brought back books
Oh,
and
that's cool.
the old Christmas ornaments because you can
Yeah.
never can go wrong. So,
Obviously.
I mean, it was hot dog in the hot tub, Northern Lights, overhead. I didn't have the hot dog in the hot tubs, Jeffers, but
Although
I
maybe next time.
might have been perfect. But is there any other questions in the chat, or Jen, if you have any other questions at this time?
I don't think I have any questions. I mean, it's good to know, it's always a good reminder, I think, that when you are seeing things on the news or on the Twitter or wherever you're watching things, because I think we experience this as New Yorkers a lot, where
Mhm.
sometimes people are like, is everyone okay? And it's like, why? What happens?
Right.
And we're just living our lives, but
Yeah.
it looks a lot worse. And so I think when Iceland is trending and they've had the worst earthquake and the most amount of earthquakes they've ever had, and
Mhm.
everyone's like, but is he okay over there? Like, when is Frank coming home?
Right.
And all of that. Like, it's good that like you guys were able to still get your trip and still enjoy it and still see and do really cool things.
Yeah, and I think that's, and that's what things boil down to. I mean, you can go you go to Disney and it
Mhm.
thunderstorms for the whole week.
Right. Yep.
Like, what do you do?
Mhm.
Uh, and you try to make the most of these. You gotta be adaptable and flexible. These are all the things we talk about, right? All the
Yeah.
time. It's like, and I think it could have been easy to be like, all right, the trip is already off the rails, and uh but in some ways it allowed us to, I think, experience what we wanted to also, which was a little more of the city life, because we left that Sunday morning open, in case, we thought of something, or we heard buzz or
Mhm.
anything else. And after walking around the city on that food tour with Bryn and everything, like, I really just liked walking around the city. I didn't get my Hard Rock Cafe Reykjavik t-shirt like I joked about on the social
Uh,
media, but just walking around made me like, no, this is how I kind of want to end the trip. Is I'd like to
mhm.
walk around Sunday morning before going to the airport, uh, and then the second part is I want to see it, because there was like a holiday market that they were starting to set up that would
Mhm.
start in a couple of weeks. So there was definitely that aspect of it. Now, expanding outward, do I want to go on the glacier? Do I want to do a hike on the glacier? I don't want to
Mhm.
land out on a chopper on the glacier.
Yeah.
Uh, maybe snowmobiling would be in the middle of that. Uh, I guess I would consider that. I don't know,
Mhm.
but you pretty much have to go to like a different city and stay overnight there to
Yeah.
do a couple of those things, because the travel back and forth, I mean, even just do the full day tours in a bus
Yeah.
is exhausting. I mean, and that would be my big recommendation too, is like, I know you want to look out the window all day and see where you're going,
Mhm.
but if they tell you that it's 45 minutes to the next place, close your eyes,
Yeah.
and just the sights will still be there,
Yeah. Yeah.
all over. But get the rest where you can. Like, we did a couple of fishing villages, and again, I'll post a lot of pictures on in resort,
Mhm.
but they were, you know, you hiked, you went up hills, you climbed steps, and we walked down to this black sand beach, and there's a whole shipwreck from 1948, a British ship
Mhm.
that's like
Mm.
scattered. They never picked up the beach, like, just sitting
That's
there,
crazy.
and then you walk back up and you go, "Whoo, walking through this black sand is a little rough."
Yeah.
So that's cool. Jeff first is asking, "What's the next exotic animal on the bucket list?" I don't know if I have. I'm trying to think of what that would be.
I mean, unless you go the dog or cat route, I don't know that you're getting a reaction from everybody like you got today.
I mean, I was hoping that the reaction wouldn't be as strong, but once Jen went, then it was
I was like,
uh,
my heart. I couldn't, I couldn't, I couldn't hold it in.
wait, that'll be the Christmas Eve chit chat for sure.
um, well, and we just as a side note here, we were talking the other day about, if we really start thinking about the meat we're eating, we would be vegetarians
Oh
in
yeah.
a second,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Because for those of you who that don't know, this 6-year-old is a vegetarian, and she likes to tell everyone as much as she. Why are you asking me if I want that? You know I'm a vegetarian. So we were talking about that a little bit, and just all of the things, and so thinking about like, oh yeah, well, if we watched this documentary or
Oh, yeah.
did this, of course we would be. But then you hear horse and you're like, I can't do it. Ugh.
But if you didn't know it, you wouldn't. You would, if they just put it in front of you.
You know, it kind of reminds me of like what was that? Oh, I'm like totally blanking on
Fear
that
Factor?
show. Yes, thank
Yeah.
you.
Mhm.
That I'd be like, no, I'm out. I can't do it.
Remember when Joe Rogan was just like the news radio guy and then the Fear Factor guy? Remember those days?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Ba-da-da-da-da.
So yes, big Jeffers, it's got to be a good flight from Toronto, I bet, to Iceland.
Oh
That
yeah.
should be on your list.
Yeah, for sure. He's too busy planning Find Frank for 50, so he's got to make time for it.
I mean, I did drop that, and I was stirring the pot before I went to Iceland about Find Frank for 50.
Yes, you were. Yeah, I was like, oh, there he goes, setting everyone off, and then disappearing for a few days to a volcano.
That's right. But here I am, safe back
Yes.
from the earthquakes and the volcanic potential.
And it's good that you ended the trip the way what we recommend to everyone going to Disney, which is always take it in, walk around, take in the sights, breathe it all in, look up, look down, look at the details, all of those things. So that is how you ended this trip.
With the views.
Yes.
But thanks for hanging out here for the past hour and 15 minutes or so as we record this week's Theme Park Thursday podcast on our YouTube channel. So if you're listening now in the audio feed, that's how it all went down. DillosDizResort.com is usually where we would record a chat episode such as this one. That's our Patreon memberships beginning as low as $1 per month. DillosDizResort.com. Until next time, which would be Theme Park Thursday live if you're listening to the audio feed. Thursday night, we'll have 3 topics or subjects that are theme park related for the old Theme Park Thursday live. 1 week before Thanksgiving. That means Jen will be closer on Theme Park Thursday to watching some Hallmark movies.
Yes.
Until that time, she's Jen. And I'm Frank. Bye-bye.
Deuces.